Wuthering Waves is a game with an ever-changing meta, and so, as an endgame creator myself, I think it's appropriate that I get my opinion out there on what the best DPSs in the game currently are. I'm Endgame Systems, a channel dedicated to the endgame of Wuthering Waves, and in today's video, I'll be making my DPS tier list for Wuthering Waves. I think there's a significant degree of subjectivity when it comes to what the best DPS is right now, and so my tier list format will reflect that. So the way this will work is that I'm gonna nominate a few characters for the strongest category and the best value category, the difference between those two being the strongest character is simply the character with the highest DPS output possible, and the best value character being the character that has a good mix between free-to-play friendliness and high value as a DPS. And then once we've discussed those two categories, we're gonna move down into the runner-up territory, strong characters, weak characters, and then by the end of the video, I'll declare who I think the best DPS in the game is. Let's go ahead and get into it. So accordingly, we'll start with my nominees for the strongest category. And for this category, we have three main suspects. We have Cartethyia, we have Carlotta, and we have Augusta. This is in my opinion the strongest DPSs given the right setup. Now let me go ahead and say that all three of these characters require a lot of premium units. Cartethyia has the advantage of using Aero Rover as one of her teammates, but in return she really wants her signature, and she really wants Dracona on her signature as well. Augusta is the newest addition to the roster, and with Iuno, those two together form an incredibly strong team. And one advantage Augusta has is that she can also play with Cartethyia and still be a really solid team. Overall though, since this category primarily focuses on the strength of the character, there's no doubt about which one of these three wins. Cartethyia is still the highest damage dealer in the game, and she has an incredible ceiling, as well as really strong scaling with her sequence nodes. The strongest DPS right now is indeed Cartethyia. Next up, let's go over the candidates for the best value pull. And for this category, we have Carlotta, we have Brant, we have Iuno, and we have a repeat of Augusta. Now what makes these four exceptionally high value to pick up? Carlotta has the advantage of having great scaling and baseline very high damage. She's also not very constrained by her signature, and she also isn't constrained by a specific teammate. While Jessie is her best in slot teammate, and it is a significant power boost to Carlotta's damage, she is not nearly as dependent on her best support compared to the other units you see on the board right now. All the other units on the board right now require something pretty specific, and more specifically a 5-star unit, to be at their best form. Carlotta does not have the same degree of needing a specific support to do well, but it is of course still a big upgrade to her if you do have Jessie. But in return, she also has the advantage of not really needing her signature. Her signature is only something like an 18% damage increase, as opposed to Static Mist. In terms of that, Carlotta is very high value. Now Brant and Iuno are two of the most flexible units in the game, and they function as main DPSs, sub DPSs, healers and buffers. Brant and Iuno are very comparable to me because they have very similar levels of flexibility. They are simply the two most flexible units in the whole game. They can serve the most roles on a given team, and they are both really solid units. They also both have incredible premium teams, Brant with the Monofusion team and Iuno with Augusta's team. However, one big thing about these two units is that for them to be a main DPS, it is vital that you hit their signature. They are very dependent on the signatures, Iuno's being a 40% damage increase from anything but Verity's handle, and Brant's being absolutely mandatory for reaching the ER cap, as well as just balancing his stats out better. Like, it's just super mandatory for Brant to have a signature. Augusta's signature is also really important, but the main difference is that Augusta is made to be a main DPS, and her numbers kind of reflect that. So since Brant and Iuno are technically sub DPSs, they do need a little bit more to function as main DPSs. They need to be beefed up a little bit more, both with the echoes, they need pretty high quality echoes, and they need their signature weapons. And while echo requirements is not something I'm gonna factor in a lot in these videos, it is important to understand that these are very high investment characters, if you want them to function as a main DPS. So on that note, Brant and Iuno will be put down in the runner-up category, because I do think that their requirements are too high for them to be a best value DPS. And meanwhile, for the strongest category, even though they are incredible characters, and they are some of the highest value characters in the whole game, they don't compare in strength to something like a Cartethyia, and so they find themselves in the runner-up category. Now in my mind, Augusta does lose out to Carlotta, because the thing about Carlotta is that she just simply has damage without her signature. Like, she's just an incredible character, with signature, without signature, with her best in slot, without her best in slot. She will always provide very high value and do great damage no matter what. So as a main damage dealer, I do believe Carlotta wins out against these characters. As highest value for your account, since this list is meant to give insight into what damage dealer to pick up, we're kind of assuming that you're in need of a DPS, and in that case I think Carlotta is your best bet, but it's really close, And also, if we're just talking about the highest value characters to pick up, I would put Brant and Iuno above everything else. I think those two are very, very high value. I also think Augusta is incredible value. Now next up guys, let's rapid fire through the rest of the DPSs and then declare the best DPS in the game. Havoc Robo combines value with damage, and he is a pretty solid character in my mind. I don't think there's anything particularly dragging him down other than his ceiling being relatively low. Cartethyia is going to be a weak character in my mind, and the reason for that is that fusion is a really stacked element. Something like Cartethyia just falls behind at this point. Keep in mind guys that you can make any character work in this game. Like Cartethyia being in the weak characters category does not mean she doesn't work, it just means that she's behind the rest of the competition. And so that brings me to Danjin, and she's obviously a strong character as well, able to solo Tower of Adversity on multiple occasions, 4-star, so high value, plays with a free-to-play weapon, and yeah, she's a very solid character. Onko is going to barely scrape herself into the strong characters category. I think she might demote from this category soon, but she is strong enough to warrant building. Let's say if you have a monofusion sim going and you're missing the Changli part of it, so you have a Brant and a Looper, then Encore is actually a pretty solid alternative to Changli. But she is pretty niche at this point, I would say. Yeah, her main role is going to be in the monofusion team. I think Encore is falling off, and she will continue to do so because of lackluster sequence nodes, as well as the fusion element being really stacked, as I mentioned. Ling Yang is a weak character in my mind. I've heard that he's pretty serviceable with Jeshi and Showkeeper. Obviously, that's a very premium team for a lackluster character. So yeah, I don't really see a use case for Ling Yang. Kaljiao is unfortunately also a weak character for me. I don't think he's worth building, and I think your resources are better spent elsewhere. As of now, not great. Lackluster sequence nodes, doesn't do much for you, so long-term investment won't be good either. Jian is, to this day, still a strong DPS. He's a pretty controversial character. Some people think that he's super good, some people think he's super bad. I think he's somewhere in the middle, and to make it very clear what I think about Jian, what I would say is, if you own a Jian right now, I think you're happy owning him. However, what I would also say is, if there was a Jian rerun right now, I would never recommend to anyone to pull him. I don't think he's worth pulling anymore. He is a good DPS, I don't think there's any doubt about it. But I don't think I could recommend him anymore. Jianxi is also still a strong DPS, however, she is on the weaker side of this spectrum of strong DPSs, and she requires premium teammates in general. She wants either Yenlin, Cantarella or Jeshi, and so she's a pretty premium character for what she brings. I don't think she brings enough to warrant being anything but a low-tier strong character. I think that's where she's at, and I don't think the future is looking particularly bright for her, but she's holding up just fine for now, so if you like her, good for you. I think she's fine. Shang Liao is going to be the one limited 5-star that I am gonna put in weak characters, and my position on him has to be pretty clear here. So obviously Shang Liao is stronger than Ling Yang, Kaljiao and Cartethyia. I think if there is one limited 5-star that belongs her, it has to be Shang Liao. He's kind of the Yenlin of DPSs at this point, and funnily enough he plays with Yenlin, so that's also not a good thing for him, because that means he has to pair with a really weak sub DPS, and so nothing is really dragging him up. I think I have to put him in weak characters at this point. Not high value and not great in general. Amelia is holding up really well, in my opinion. I think she's definitely holding up better than Jianxi is, and the reason for that is that she plays with budget teammates and she can play relatively well without a signature. So she's a really high value, low cost unit, and her damage is substantial enough to put her in the strong characters category. I think Phoebe is alright. I mean, as a main DPS, she is lacking a little bit in my opinion in this point, but she is certainly stronger than the rest of the characters are, and she obviously also has a confession state, so you can build towards something like a Sunny eventually. You kind of have more scaling options with her. Now Sunny is still a solid character. She will be in the top of my strong characters list. She is obviously one of the best DPSs in the game. I think she just slightly loses to stuff like Cartethyia, Augusta with her best team, Roloba with her best team, and yeah, I think she's still an incredible DPS that's very future proof, and you're gonna be happy having her if you like Sunny. I would probably put Sunny in the runner-up category, because she is stronger than the rest of the characters in the strong characters section. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And now this is going to be my final list, guys. And now it's time to declare what I think is the best DPS in the game. So we have two options here. We have Cartethyia's insanely high ceiling with the right teammates, and we have Carlotta's versatility, free-to-play friendliness, and solid damage. And maybe you can hear it from the way I sound, but I am indeed gonna pick Carlotta for my best DPS slot as of now. I do value flexibility and free-to-play friendliness slot, and I do think Carlotta's damage holds up well enough so where you can still argue that she's the best DPS in the game. One additional thing that's working in Carlotta's favor is that Kuro Games just refused to release Glacier characters, so she's still just the queen of Glacier and nobody even comes close. Whereas Aero does have other options at this point, Carlotta just has no competition within her element as well. And I do think that's pretty noteworthy. But I do think there's a big degree of subjectivity here. I think you can argue for many different things, depending on who you are. But yeah, that's going to be my tier list for this patch. I'm going to be making these tier lists every single patch, and I'm going to be making much more in-game content. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. I'll keep improving every single video, and I'm going to get a lot of videos out for you guys. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.